Strive for a smooth, pure, and characteristic French horn sound. And if you don't know what a characteristic French horn sound is, I strongly suggest listening to some professional French hornists and doing some research and really have that sound within your imagination. Now, with that said, you really want to make sure that you're playing with no slurping, and nowhere in the piece does it say to drop below piano or at piano. So make sure that you're always playing with a nice full sound that's trying to be heard more than anything else. Now, at the same time, you shouldn't be trying to sound loud. You want to avoid the upper extremes of the loud dynamics and just sing within that beautiful dynamic range that is our mezzo forte and mezzo pianos. Make sure to maintain a steady pulse, especially throughout the first half of this etude. It's really important when you're starting out a piece that you make your tempo and pulse obvious and accessible to a listener. So make sure when you practice this, try to practice with a metronome with the eighth note on. And after you've gotten used to this etude for a while, and you take the metronome away, still try to hear the eighth notes in the back of your head clicking away. That will take care of your pulse issue. Now, just like the technical etude, it's also really important that you hold out, especially your quarter notes at the end of phrases for its full value. In this etude, they even have two noodle marks underneath them. So really make sure that you hold them out long from beat 3 all the way to beat 4 for its full value and full tone as well. Now I put in a few alternate fingerings, and it's really important that regardless of whatever fingering you use, you're always making sure your notes settle and they hit comfortably. You want to avoid that kind of like wobbliness or airiness when you don't hit a note quite 100% on. Really make sure that your air is really the main driver that plays these notes. Your tongue cleans it up just a little, and you use an optimal fingering. If these fingerings don't work for you, that's okay. Use whatever works best with you or whatever your teacher suggests. These are just suggestions. Try to connect measures 5 and 6 and blow into measure 7's first G. If you're having trouble hitting any of these notes, I strongly suggest taking it slow and using either a drone or a tuner to double check what the note is supposed to not only sound like, but what it's supposed to feel like. So once you start getting the notes and rhythms and what the tempo is supposed to be, really start trying to apply little details of what a mature musician would do. One of those things include bringing out bottom notes and figures or scales or runs or whatever it may be. The first case scenario is measure 7, and which I actually drew in diminuendos. These are not to be taken literally, but it really does imply that you just make the first note just a little bit louder than the second note to balance out, obviously, the louder dynamic difference that comes from just playing higher. Even in the scales, it's really, really important that you're really trying to make sure that the lower notes are there and they're present, and that even after we're starting to move our vowels just a little bit faster, we're not letting a single note slip. There's no stone unturned in this etude. Listen carefully to how I play this ritardando in measure 8. So I'm really making the slowdown happen on the F and E after my breath mark. Don't try to slow down too much in the first half, and generally when you interpret tempo changes, you want to push them off to the second half of where it's actually notated. Let's go ahead and talk about the ending, and we'll close out this video. Practice slow and with as many times as it takes to get these 16th notes to be clear throughout the whole piece. As you just heard, hold that E flat all the way to B4 and be in no rush at all to finish this piece. With this kind of etude, in all honesty, if you take care of the music will take care of you. If you're doing your job and taking care of your notes and rhythms and listening to yourself and making sure that you have that characteristic French horn sound that we were talking about in the beginning, this etude should sound phenomenal naturally just within a little bit of time. I strongly suggest, again, practicing slow with a tuner, with a metronome, and hearing the eighth note in the back of your head, and repeat this as many times as it takes to where you can really feel every single individual note that you play. Best of luck on your audition.